If you have anything to do with email marketing, then you definitely are going to want to listen to today's episode. I'm bringing on an email marketing expert, and he gives a ton of practical advice on how to write compelling subject lines, when to time your emails, what types of lists are appropriate and inappropriate, how to do email testing, and how to measure for success. And this isn't your boring, normal best practices episode. He gives a lot of insightful information on what marketers are doing wrong or could be doing better that you may have not thought of. So let's do this.
Welcome to Content Marketing Engineered, your source for building trust and generating demand with technical content. Here is your host, Wendy Covey.
Hi, and welcome to Content Marketing Engineered. On each episode, I'll break down an industry trend, challenge, or best practice in reaching technical audiences. You'll meet colleagues, friends, and clients of mine who will stop by to share their stories. And I hope that you leave each episode feeling inspired and ready to take action. Before we jump in, I'd like to give a brief shout out to my agency, TREW Marketing. TREW is a full-service agency located in beautiful Austin, Texas, serving highly technical companies. For more information, visit TREWmarketing.com. And now, on with our podcast. Hey, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Content Marketing Engineered. I'm joined today by Jay Schwedelson. I'm sure I said that name perfectly, Jay. Jay is the founder of subjectline.com and the founder of Guru Events and the leader of Outcome Media, a very busy guy. Welcome to the show, Jay.
Excited to be here. This is going to be fun.
Yes, it is. And in fact, we first found you because you were presenting on stage probably multiple years at Inbound. So you really hit home on some of your messaging and also just a memorable guy. So I'm pleased to have you on for a more intimate conversation today.
Yeah, I know. It's super fun to be here. It's always fun to talk about email and how to get more engagement and to bust a lot of those myths. So that's what we're going to do.
All right. Sounds good. Okay. So here's hot topic number one. Is email dead? Is it dying? Or is it alive and flourishing? What's the state of this channel right now?
So email is dead for people that don't want to try to test little things, to focus on what's actually working, and to think that it's some sort of legacy channel. In the world, when you look at social media and you look at search, you look at all these things, when you put something out on social media, maybe 10% of your network will see it because all the algorithms. And on search, forget it. You're battling, all these optimizations. It's really hard. The only channel on planet Earth that you can reach your entire audience whenever you want to, for very limited cost, is email. So to me, it is the ultimate marketing channel. So no, it's far from dead.
That's what I figured. I think it was definitely abused during COVID times, for sure. But it feels very much back on track, at least in our audience of, reaching engineers, technical buyers. We have this State of Marketing to Engineers research study that we produce every year. And in it, we ask, how many e-newsletters do you subscribe to? And we did see some decline from COVID to now, but then it seems like it's really stable, it's leveled off, it's at a good place, and that people really want to hear from the brands that they trust.
Listen, email is all about relevance. If you have relevant information, you could email somebody every single day, multiple times a day, and they're going to be excited to get whatever it is that you're sending. When you're sending stuff that you barely care about, let alone the person that you're sending it to cares about, they're going to view it as garbage, that their inbox is filled up. And so, believe it or not, most marketers think that they're sending too much email. I come from the perspective of, I don't think you're sending enough email. And someone listening out there is going to be like, what are you talking about? You have no idea what I send. But no, it's true. The question is not how much you're sending or how much we're all receiving. Is it relevant? And are you sending things that are compelling and interesting to get people engaged? So I'm never turned off by the volume of email that's going on the planet.
Interesting. So do you measure that based on open rates and click through and engagement? And that's your sign, kind of benchmarking that to decide, could I talk to this audience more and trying out different things? I mean, how can a marketer figure that out?
So there's a lot of different, metrics to be looking at. And one piece of it is that email is also, there's a level of branding to it, right? Because if you're being consistent and you're sending out your emails, that person that you're marketing to may not be in the market. That engineer may not be in the market at that moment for what it is that you're promoting. But if
Mhm.
you stay consistent, you keep sending, there's going to be a moment in time that they are interested in whatever it is that you have to say, and you want to be there for that. So there's an element of this consistency in email and branding that even if you're not seeing the open rates that you want, the click-through rates that you want, the ultimate response rates that you want, you need to keep going. You need to keep going because there will be that moment in time that you're there at the right moment. And if you're not there, then you're not there. Now, stepping back from that, open rate, a lot of people think the open rate, you send out, 10,000 emails, 2,000 emails get open, that's a 20% open rate. People say open rate doesn't mean anything. I couldn't disagree more. There's a lot of reasons that open rates get inflated. There's, Apple has their tracking and there's bots and there's garbage out there, but that doesn't mean anything. And the reason it doesn't mean anything is that when you send out an email, if you test something in the subject line, one subject line has it's a question subject line. The other one's a regular subject line. And the one that's a question subject line gets a 35% open rate. The other one gets a 20% open rate. It doesn't necessarily mean that 35% of the people you emailed to opened it. But what it does mean is that the one with the question did a lot better than the one that wasn't a question. So similar to a poll, right, that you might ask a bunch of people, it gives you directional information for your marketing strategy. So to me, open rate is mission critical. And then of course, click-through rate, and then ultimately response rate. All of it matters. And in some ways, all of it also doesn't matter. So yes to everything.
Yeah, trend data. I heard rather than say, oh, well, the benchmark is this, and if I'm not meeting it, it means I'm doing a bad job. How is your data trending? And then of course, testing is a big thing with email. So let's back up though. Before we talk about testing, I want to just talk a little bit about the content strategy behind email, because it feels like sometimes I talk to companies and there's a chicken and an egg strategy. So some are very email oriented or e-newsletter oriented, and they say, I'm writing content for my e-newsletter. And I kind of feel like, you kind of have it backwards. You need a content strategy and think through your personas and what you're writing about. And your e-newsletter and your emails is just another channel to put that content in front of people. So where do you sit in what camp, and how do you look at it?
I totally agree with you that whatever you're putting in your email newsletter, it absolutely should not only live there. It can be on your social, it could be a post anywhere, right? It could be in 10 different kinds of emails. It could be on your website, it could be in a blog, it could be everywhere. And don't think that you're being redundant or repetitive, that, oh, well, they already saw it. Nobody cares. Nobody saw anything. Nobody's paying attention to anything you're doing. I promise you that. And if somebody did see it more than once in a different channel, they don't care either. Nobody cares about anything. So repurposing content is, a lot of the folks that are listening to this, you're wearing 12 different hats, right? You're not just in charge of email. You're in charge of your website and your design and your content and your search and your social and 75 other things. And to not repurpose content is a crime. And your newsletter, your newsletter, number one, you need to be sending it out more than once, right? So if you send out your email newsletter the first time on a Tuesday, you want to take everybody who didn't open it and then send it out again on Thursday with a subject line that says, oops, I think you missed it. To only send your email newsletter out once is ridiculous. Think about the time and energy that you put into this thing. And then you hit send once, you move on to the next one, and you have a nervous breakdown trying to make the next newsletter. That is ridiculous. So I go off track, but anyway, yeah, that's where I'm at.
I like it. Work smarter, not harder. So yeah, I bet that's a common mistake that people make. Just say, oh, they didn't open it, I guess. Oh, well.
Right.
So what I heard was changing the subject line, sending it back out. Now you would advocate against a third sin, I assume, stick to two.
Not
See
necessarily.
what
I'm not
happens.
against it. I think
Okay.
that's a good test, right? That third
Yeah.
send.
Okay.
But again, due to the non-openers, I also would think about radically different times. Marketers make the mistake with their newsletters, especially, is they're like, well, the best performing time we have is 8 a.m. on Tuesday or whatever it is, right? So we're going to send it always at 8 a.m. on Tuesday, which is fine. But what you want to do is when you do that second touch to the non-openers, Send it out at a radically different time. Send it out at, usually like to have a 6-hour difference. Send it out at 3 p.m. on Thursday, because we all consume email differently. Like I read my email at night, right? Not in the morning. A lot of people read in the morning, but you want to cater to different populations of people in your database and how they interact with email. So just to keep doing the same things over and over and over again, you're going to get the same result. And that's not what you want.
Okay, makes sense. And I assume a lot of the tools, so say HubSpot or, whatever your favorite tool is that you're using, once you learn when people are opening things, can you remember that and have a personalized approach to when you send to that individual? Or is it still done at a group level? Like this persona tends to open, at 8 a.m. on Tuesdays.
Yeah, it really depends on the platform and how sophisticated your program is. I would say ideal scenario is you're leveraging, past interactions and engagement for it to be an automatic send. But the reality of it is over 90% of marketers don't have that ability or don't set that up. And they're operating with, what do I think works best? Right.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, the other thing about timing I would put out there is try not to send out your emails on the hour. 80% of all emails are sent, marketing emails, newsletter emails are sent out on, 8 a.m., 11 a.m., 2 p.m. Because as marketers, what do? We say, when should we send it out? Oh, get it out at 11 a.m. You don't say at 11:12. You don't say at 2:15. Nobody says that, right? So 80% of all email goes out on the hour. And the problem is in the first 10 minutes of every hour, all the promotional email, all the newsletters show up at the same time, all the garbage. And you avoid it because your mind's like, meh. If you send out your email a little bit later, 8:15, 8:17, 8:22, your email is going to show up with more of the one-to-one emails. And we actually see an open rate lift just by not sending it out on the hour.
Wow. Okay. Tell me some other open rate lifts that we might be able to take advantage of.
So I think the biggest thing is the subject line is really important. Now people say, nah, it's not so important. And it drives me bananas because marketers have it all backwards. They spend all this time inside the message. What does it look like? Is it approved by legal? Oh my God, who's going to write the copy, the logo? What's it going to look like? And then you're getting ready to send it. And you're like, well, what's the subject line? They're like, I don't know. And they spend 3 seconds to send it out, which is ridiculous. Because if somebody doesn't open up your email, who actually cares? Who cares what's in your message? So we got to get it open.
Nobody cares.
Right. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about anything. I believe that in life. Seriously, nobody cares. It's a whole thing. But, in the world of engineering and technology and B2B, there is something in the subject line that works incredibly well. And that is certain kind of personalization. But not personalization when you write J, check out this webinar. That's horrendous. That's from 1985. That barely works. Okay. But the personalization that does really, really well is number one, job function in the subject line. In your mind, what you have to do whenever you send out an email, in the subject line, you want to say to yourself, I need to tell the person who they are. The faster you tell somebody who they are, the more likely they are to engage with it because they're going to believe it's for them. What do I mean by that? If your subject line says something like, just for engineers, okay, and you receive that, like, oh my God, that's me. I'm an engineer. I need to open that up. You're right. Instantly, you have a connection. When you put the person's title or function in the subject line as a form of personalization, it does incredibly well. On average, it lifts your open rates by at least 25% versus not doing that. And all you're doing is who they are. The other type of personalization that works incredibly well is company name. My company's Outcome Media. Is Outcome Media at risk? ? Oh my God. What's happening? I need to see what's going on in this email. Is Outcome Media doing this? Right? When you see your own company name in the subject line, immediately like, whoa, this is for me. And it's about the subconscious. It's not like somebody sees that like, this email's awesome. I'm all in on this. No, it's that moment, that social scroll that you do in your inbox where you can grab somebody's attention and that gets them to open it, that one little thing. So those are some little things that actually can make a big difference.
Okay. On subject lines, are you pro emojis? See him do my thumb or down with emojis? What do you think?
I'm extremely pro emoji. And I think the problem in the world of B2B is that emoji is a stupid name. If emoji was called business icon, right? Are you using a business icon, your subject line? You're like, what's that? I want to use a business icon, but it has really bad PR. I mean, emoji sounds like something that my teenagers would say to each other, it's something ridiculous. And so in the world of B2B, no. Should you use like a green vomit face emoji? No, that's not going to get you to the finish line. But can you start out your subject line with a calendar emoji, right? Can it be a check mark, right? Or something like that, that literally it's all about standing out? And the answer is absolutely. 94% of all receiving emails, receiving networks, B2B, everything can view emojis just fine. So it's all about testing. And if you do use an emoji, it's got to be the first character. People make the mistake of putting stuff at the end. You can't have your offer. This is going to be the greatest blah, 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 the great webinar at the end.
Smiley
Right?
face. Yeah.
Whatever is important, realize this. People will look at the first half of your subject line. Nobody cares about the second half, whether it's an emoji or capitalizing a word, or it's your offer. You want to put something in brackets to start your subject line. There's 74 different tactics to start that subject line. I'll give you another example. If you start your subject line with a number, an actual numeric number, the 7 things you need to know about blah, right? The 4 pitfalls you need to avoid. If you simply start it with a number, no, you won't get filtered. No, you won't go to the junk folder. None of that's going to happen, okay? If you simply start it with a number, your open rate goes up by an average of about 20%. Because it stands out and people instantly know that's going to be a list of some kind. It's going to be authoritative. It's going to be informative. It's going to be rapid fire. So little things at the start of your subject line, emoji, number, things like that, home run.
Okay. I know that you're also big on testing subject lines. So tell me about why that's important and how it works.
Every time you hit send, you should test something. Now, a lot of times you go online, you'll have a breakdown because you see set up these crazy testing strategies, and you should be doing these 74 different mechanisms and auto responders. You lose your mind. Nobody's time for that, okay? But what can you really do? Let's be very real for a second. What can you really do? You say, okay, last time, what did we test? We tested an emoji. Okay, what do we want to test this time? Ideally, in the perfect world, let's say you're emailing out to 20,000 people. You split your list in half, right? 10,000 people will get the subject line with whatever it is that you're testing out this time, and the other 10,000 will get the other one. You see how they do. The key thing about testing is you need to make sure your test is big enough. I don't mean size, number of people, but that it's bold enough. You can't test something like it needs to be, okay, we're going to capitalize the first word, or we're going to use a number to start the subject line. That's pretty bold. It can't be like, we're going to add 3 more words that are random. It's got to be bold, or else you're going to get meaningless data and you're not going to know what to do. And then the other thing is, if you find something that works, you can't just do that for the rest of your life, right? You have to, filter that in. It becomes part of your arsenal. But if you do it every time, it's wallpaper, and that's not cool.
All right. That makes sense. Let's see. Okay, let's talk about who you're sending emails to. One is you're building your own community. You're able to segment at least by, I don't know, business title you mentioned, or some sort of persona segmentation, right? That's ideal. But some companies are startups, or they haven't done a good job at creating their own lists. So what do they do? Are you a fan of paid lists? How do they perform? Should they even bother? Where do you stand on that?
Well, a few things. People say you'll read probably 1,000 articles. You can never buy a list. I would say that 99% of companies on this planet, the biggest brands in the world, buy lists. You're going to say that's impossible. I'm going to tell you right now, it's true. They do. Everybody that says you should never buy a list are also the same people that are buying a list. Look, Zoom Info, great example. I don't work for Zoom Info. I do work with them. Well, I think their valuation is like $15 billion or something ridiculous like that. Why do I mention that? Because their entire business is predicated on selling lists. Somebody's buying those lists.
Somebody's
right?
buying them at that. Yeah.
Somebody's buying them because that's why they exist. And there's plenty of other companies like Zoom Info. So what I would recommend is, if you're going to get lists from any of these sites that are out there, it doesn't matter. Or let's say you're at a trade show and you get a bunch of names from somewhere, or you get handed a pile of names. You're like, how do I use this? What do I do with this? There's a lot of different hygiene and validation companies out there for email specifically. And it is critical that you take the data that you are receiving from any of these places and you pass it through one of these services. It's relatively inexpensive to do that. If you don't do that, it will blow up whatever your email infrastructure is 100 times over, right? And even when you do pass it through this validation and hygiene and all this stuff, and let's say, okay, you put in 15,000, you get 10,000 that are viable. You don't want to take that 10,000, just stick them in whatever your sending platform is. That's not the move. You want to take like 1,000 of them, send out what you want to send out, and see if the earth explodes, right? How many removes do you get? How angry are people? How many bounces? All this stuff to see, okay, is this thing toxic or not? And that is a real world view on kind of third-party data, if you will. It's not a never do. It's if you're going to do, you got to do it the right way. And there's another thing about data that I think on the B2B side, marketers miss out on opportunity. When you send out your email, I don't care, right, to your database, what happens? You get a certain number get delivered, and then you have a certain number that bounce. Bouncing means that the email is no longer good, right? That you can't get there, that person's not there anymore. It's a bounced email address. And most marketers in the B2B world make the mistake of just saying, okay, well, that bounced. But really what you want to do is that database of people that are bouncing is your new account-based marketing file. What I mean by that is all of a sudden you have all these contacts that are really important to you. That's why they were on your database. And now they're not deliverable. Who took their job, right? Who are the people in those roles? You just lost some key contacts there. So you want to take the database of your bounces and turn them into a file that is now your goal in terms of prospecting, in terms of data sourcing, because they're gone. So there's a lot of different things you could do to make sure that you're reaching everybody you want to reach.
And I think that's a great reminder, but not only they're gone, so you want to find the new person, but you want to figure out where they went to because they had an interest in your company. And that's been a gold mine I know that we use is, okay, where are they now? Let's go to LinkedIn. Let's figure that out. And, half the time they're in your database as the other person. So
That's right.
there's that too. So I'm sure everyone listening knows this, but tell me what would happen if I take those 10,000 names, dump them into HubSpot or whatever, I'm constant contact and email them. And what's the worst case scenario?
Oh, the worst case, well, there's a couple worst case scenarios. So let's say you take 10,000 just cold emails and you dump them into, let's say you use a HubSpot or whatever platform. Very likely you will get quarantined, which means that you'll no longer be able to be sending on that platform. They will say, sorry, you're not allowed to send to this database at all. And you'll either have to wipe out all those contacts and not send to them on that infrastructure, or you'll have to get a new sending platform, right? And then the other bad piece is that whatever domain you're sending from. So let's say you are the Acme company and you're sending your email from, acme.com is your sending domain. That domain will be permanently stained, could be blacklisted. And regardless of what sending platform you ever migrate to, if you do continue to send using your domain, your deliverability will be in the garbage. So there is massive long-term repercussions. So you don't want to do that.
Great. Thank you for that. So let's go back to this same sad company that doesn't have a database, just getting started, whatever the scenario is. What are your opinions on them getting their message out through, say, a technical publication that has an email service? So in other words, somebody else is doing the send, you're just getting your content in there, right? Paid placement.
Oh, yeah. First of all, always be asking. You need to get people's data all the time, whether it's with a technical publication doing a dedicated send, which is great. If you put it on a social post, you say, click here to sign up for our newsletter. You should, when people go to your website, you should have those pop-up captures that you go to a website, it pops up, say, hey, give us your email address. We're going to give you the 4 tips to the trends in engineering. And you put in your address and you do the data capture. On average, the first time someone visits your site, okay, if they visit your site 3 times, on average, you'll get about 6 to 7% of the contacts to fill that out. Now you're saying, right, that's annoying. I don't like that. But here's 2 things. When you go to a site and it has one of those boxes, give us your email address, whatever, what do? Do you say, oh my God, I'm so offended, and you leave the site? Or do you just click the little X in the top corner and then you go onto the site? We just click the little X, we move on with our lives. But as a marketer, we're capturing that data, and data doesn't cost us anything. I mean, they're going to your site for a reason. They want to know who you are. And I think that marketers make this ongoing mistake, especially in the engineering world, in the technology world, that they say to themselves, well, I don't like that. That annoys me. So we're not going to do that in our marketing. That is the recipe for failure. You are not your customer database, okay? And then the other thing people get turned off on is unsubscribes, right? You send out an email. You test one of the crazy things we talked about today. Test an emoji, okay? And all of a sudden when you test it, instead of getting 5 unsubscribes, you got 12 unsubscribes, okay? And one of the unsubscribes was a nasty gram. Said, I hate you. This is illegal. You're doing something wrong. You're a horrible person, whatever. And somehow the nasty gram, it gets funneled all the way up to like the CEO or some really high level executive. It's amazing how that happened, like magic. And then it comes back to you. And then this is the conversation. Oh my God, we need to stop sending. We're sending too much. Look, we got this one bad email. We got 7 more unsubscribes. We got to stop. We're sending too much. And that's not true. Okay, that's a win. An unsubscribe is a win. And here's why. It means 2 things. Number one, you're getting off some dead weight. This person is not a fit for your organization. You does not cause you a deliverability problem when you get unsubscribed. It actually helps your deliverability. So it has nothing to do with you having a deliverability problem when you unsubscribe. But the reason you get unsubscribed is because you did something right? All of a sudden you tried an emoji. And for the first time in like 6 months, your email stood out. The person saw your email. Like, oh my God, what is this? Am I still on this list? And they opened it up and they were like, I don't even care about this anymore. I already have the product or service. I'm unsubscribing. So don't view unsubscribes as you're doing something wrong. And don't let the loudest voice in the room dictate your marketing efforts when you get a nasty gram, because that person's having a bad day. They're weird. That's their problem.
There you go. One person doesn't speak for the masses.
Right.
I like that. Okay. Man, I feel like we could talk about email marketing all day. However, this is just like, we're just scratching the surface. And I know that you have a huge event all on email marketing that's coming up in November. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we put on the world's largest virtual email marketing conference. It is 100% free, okay, and it's virtual. It's November 8th and 9th. It's guruconference.com. And we have all sorts of B2B. We also have B2C. Martha Stewart is going to be there this year. Ann Hanley from Marketing Profs will be there this year. Every big brand, every big platform. We'll have over 15,000 people, and you should check it out. Again, it's free, it's fun, and it's all email marketing. I'll be there. And so guruconference.com. Thank you.
And there's some B2B material there. It's not all going to be, how to reach consumers for Martha.
It's actually about 55% of the sessions are B2B.
Great.
Right. So we have AWS will be there. SAP will be presenting there. Lenovo B2B will be presenting there. There's a bunch of other folks as well. Look, majority of marketers on the planet are actually B2B marketers. I mean, that's just an absolute fact. So we got to make sure everybody's covered.
Good. Well, if someone's listening and they want to learn more about you and all that you do, where's the best place to connect?
Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I share too much stuff on LinkedIn, trends, stats, tips, whatever. And that's the best place to find me. We also have a site, subjectline.com. That's free. You can check that out. And my agency is outcomemedia.com. And I don't know. I hope you guys test a lot of stuff. Why not?
Why not? All right. Well, we will link to all of that in the show notes and to your LinkedIn profile, since your last name is slightly challenging to spell for Texans like me. But I really enjoyed talking to you today. Learned some new things. Can't wait to try some new stuff out. So appreciate your time. Thanks for joining me today on Content Marketing Engineered. For show notes, including links to resources, visit TREWmarketing.com/podcast. While there, you can subscribe to our blog and our newsletter and order a copy of my book, Content Marketing Engineered. Also, I would love your reviews on this podcast. So please, when you get a chance, subscribe and leave me your review on your favorite podcast subscription platform. Thanks and have a great day.